All right, what's up, Tycoon? Super excited for today's video. We're going to be taking a look at Bngo. Okay, this is Bionano Genomics. And all I ask is that you guys leave a like, subscribe. I do viewer requests every single week. So if there's any stocks, penny stocks, pharmaceutical plays, penny stocks, whatever it is, growth, tech, let me know. I'll be happy to break it down for you, give you some technical analysis, let you know if there's any bullish or bearish divergences and what I'm looking at in the market. Okay, so we're going to break it down using our 200 simple moving average. We're going to use the Bollinger Bands, and we're going to pay attention to these gaps on the chart. Okay, we're going to break it all down, and I'm going to go over some possible long-term opportunities and also some possible short-term setups for an entry on a swing bullish position, right? Now, of course, none of this is financial advice. This is just me breaking down some technical analysis and giving you my opinion on the data. Okay, so the most important thing we're going to look at actually is we're going to take a look at the highs here. Okay, we're looking at the daily chart. This thing traded at highs of 1569. All right, that's the most important thing. All right, and if we look here at our old data, okay, we have lows previously of 25 cents. All right, so if we do come back down, okay, and try to come back down to these levels and go below $1, there is a potential we could come all the way down to 25 cents. Okay, and I've got some nice support levels here. Okay, above that 25 cents level that we'd really have to break for us to even come down to those lows. And this is where our initial gaps were created. Okay, so we're going to zoom in on the chart. And this is what I mean by a gap. Okay, there's a gap from this candlestick to this candlestick. All right, so originally this box was larger. All right, it was like this. But what happened is this gap, okay, tends to get filled 90 to 95% of the time historically in the stock market. It's a matter of when, not a matter of if so much, right? So it's very hard to time the market. Time in the market always beats time in the market. But what you can do is set some alerts. Okay, so you can come here and you can right click, create an alert at or below, and you'll get an alert when it's coming down to fill this gap, right? And you can try to swing trade, day trade, scalp, maybe that momentum down, or maybe it finds some support in that gap and rebounds up. Okay, but that's why I love this strategy. Okay, so originally we did see it fill some of this gap and we came down to these lows here. All right, but we still had this gap on the chart to fill. Now we also had this gap as well from this candlestick to here. All right, now this is back in 2020. If we go into the future, okay, after we just looked at those highs of 1569, okay, so here's our highs of 1569. We've fallen so much, okay, and what do? Eventually, we come down and we fill this gap, okay, in November, and that's when people really started to notice like a crunch in the market and feel a lot of pain in the market. Was in November, right? Bngo filled its first daily gap down to 350. Filled that no problem. All right. And then we had this gap down to 163. And I said, man, Bngo is at a very discounted rate right now at 350, but I'm really worried about this gap down to 163. So let me wait before I add, some shares to my position, because there's a chance that if I buy at 350 and we're at a bear market and we're continuing this downtrend, we're most likely going to fill this gap here soon in the near time future. And we did do that. Okay. So again, I showed you guys the major support levels of 97 cents, 60, and about 44. Okay. Those are going to be the lows, all right, that we possibly could hit if, this bear market cycle continues. However, we are in a nice little bit of an uptrend. Okay. We have bounced here recently, and we're going to break down the bullish divergence now. Okay. So here was our low, and we created a low here. All right. And if we look on our RSI, all right, from this moment, from this low to this low over here to these lows, right, we see that we're creating higher lows on the RSI. And so what this does is this gives us an area to look for an entry on a swing trade, right? So when we come back down and test these levels, all right, if you look at the stock chart, the actual price action on the stock, okay, so we zoom in here and we get our first bounce here. All right, what do you see? 2 bullish days following, right? Now that trend was not very strong. That bounce was not very strong, but we did form a nice little W pattern. Okay, little W here and a nice W on the RSI. All right, we come back down to that support line, and then that's when we get a very nice bullish move. Okay, if we look at that rally from here to those highs, from here to those highs, that's a 79% rally, right? And so what you're doing is you're not waiting and you're not buying early. You're just going to see, are we going to find support and actually rally off of here, or are we going to fall lower, right? And eventually when we come down to this level and fall lower, that's when our bullish divergence upcycle has been broken. And that's when we're going to see the downtrend continue instead of bouncing. Okay. And what do we have on that day? This is when we get that bounce down here. Okay. We try to bounce off of the bullish divergence. All right. It tries to find some support, but there's not enough buyers in the market and we fall further. Okay. So go ahead and take a look at that here on the RSI, and we'll pull it up a little bit bigger. Okay. So, we found support. Okay. Found our support there. And then here we broke it here. Now here we have the same thing. We're creating a low. All right. And here's our lower low, but we have a low on the RSI and a higher low on the RSI. Okay. So if you're not in BNGO right now, there's no reason to rush, right? Or anything like that and try to FOMO into something. But what you can do is you can wait to see if it comes back down to test this RSI support line off of the bullish divergence. And you can look to see if we have a little bit of a bullish pop off of there. You can set a stop loss, use whatever risk management you want to use. If we look on our Bollinger Bands here, which is something that I really like with swing trading as well. All right. Look here. All right. What do? We come outside of our bottom Bollinger Band. Okay. We create these lows. And that's where we hit our bullish divergence trend line. Okay. So the way that Bollinger Bands work is the price action usually gets snapped back into these bands. All right. It's not going to stay outside of it for very long. And when you're at the bottom Bollinger Band, you tend to get a bounce, right? And see, price action start to move upwards towards the middle Bollinger Band. And that's an area where you can see some resistance, right? So you can look and say, okay, well, I have a bounce on the bottom Bollinger Band here, potentially, right? We're coming to it, maybe finding some support here. All right. And we're outside of the Bollinger Bands. You can get in a position here, a small position, set a stop loss, use some risk management. We see 2 days of green action next to that. We come up, face resistance there, and you can close your position. That's a very nice, successful swing trade, right? That's what we're looking for. We do see that we, again, face some resistance on the middle Bollinger Band on our daily chart here, but we opened and closed above it. So this is a very nice sign that we potentially could progress, all right, another, 10 to 11%, all right, over the next few days up towards this top Bollinger Band, because that's an area where we're going to start to see resistance. Okay, so we're going to start to see some resistance up around 170, 180. That's where our resistance is going to be on BNGO as it continues this uptrend. But as soon as we break below this middle Bollinger Band here, it's going to be trading back in the lower half of our Bollinger Bands, and that's when the stock is in a bearish area, okay, where price is going to continue going lower. When we're trading in the top half, that's when it's going to start to go upwards. If we're trading in the lower half, it's going to go lower. So we just crossed over. There is potential we can continue that up to that 180, and 155 is going to be a good stop loss area, or good area of support or potential re-entry. But again, the main thing that I would look for, okay, is have some patience and just wait to see in the future, are we going to come back down and test this line? And that if we do and we bounce, okay, then there's a potential for 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of bullishness. And if we don't, then that it's going to be a sharp fall below, because we broke the bullish divergence and bears are overtaking, and it's going to be a nice drop. Okay, so you can get into the upside or the downside. Either way, I want you guys to be prepared. Now, if you are a long-term investor, okay, there is this daily gap up to 590. If you really believe in their core fundamentals and you're keeping up with the business and their operations as a whole, then there is the potential that the next bull market cycle, which may not happen for a few years as the overall stock market is in a bear market, but in the next bull market cycle, there is a potential that even if you bought in now, you could get up to 250% returns waiting for the stock to come back up to the daily gap at $5.90. Okay. Again, over here, we had that daily gap to 350 and daily gap down to 163. Nobody was concerned about that over the past couple of years when this was trading at 1569, when this thing was trading at $9, $10, $8, $5, and it just fell lower and lower until that whole bull market cycle was over and we come down and fill those daily gaps. Now, as you can see, we're continuing a downtrend, but we have a very nice gap up, and this gap up will fill about 90% of the time Just if BNGO can withstand this bear market, not go bankrupt, keep their business up the next bull market cycle, it should fill this up here. Okay, so thank you guys for watching. Remember, no financial advice, and I do viewer requests every single week, so let me know the next ticker you want to see below.